This episode is brought to you by the Slash and Cast Podcast Network. Learn more at slashandcast.net.
Hey everybody, it's Matt here with a very special bonus episode of So Horrified this week. Sadie and I were lucky enough to sit down with the producer and one of the stars of the new film 1BR, which you can see right now on Netflix. And if you have not seen it already, go ahead and stop this and go watch it, because we definitely spoil the hell out of it, and it is a very good movie that I don't want to say too much about before we get into it. It's about a young woman that moves to LA, gets herself an apartment, and things go bad. So yeah, go check out 1BR if you haven't already. If you have, enjoy this interview with Alok Mishra, one of the producers of the movie, and Naomi Grossman, who plays Janice in 1BR. You may also know her as Pepper from American Horror Story. We talked a lot about the production of the movie. Some of the audio from the call dropped out during one of his stories about an actress that required a certain feminine energy drink, but I think you'll get the gist of the story regardless. If you're an American Horror Story fan, Naomi tells in great detail the process that it takes to become Pepper, both in the makeup chair and as an actor. It's very interesting, and I don't want to take up too much more time. Let's just get into it.
Welcome to So Horrified, the show where we talk about scary movies that are horrifying for all the wrong reasons. We're your hosts, Sadie
and Matt.
And today we actually have some very special guests with us. We have Alok Mishra and Naomi Grossman. Alok is the producer for a film that is just like, I see people talking about it all the time right now, 1BR. On or One Bedroom on Netflix, and Naomi is one of the stars of that film, and so we're really excited to have you guys here today.
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you. It's actually called Apartment 1BR in the UK.
Oh, okay.
And it's called Madhouse.
Oh,
and it stands for Madhouse.
Right. I like it. Nice. Yeah, I was telling someone my dad actually. I was telling him how to go find your movie today, and I was like, it's like 1BR, like you would see in a newspaper clipping that's like apartment available, 1BR. I was like, so you have to think about it like that.
It's a real estate abbreviation, as you say, but
right.
The funny thing is we thought like everyone in the English speaking world knew what that meant.
Right.
And we went on the festival run, and we learned that like nobody, even the Canadians, they kind of know it, but
right.
like nobody knew. It was such an argument internally to call it like One Bedroom, or like what's that movie Facebook, when the douchebag guy comes, when Justin what's his face comes in and it's like, make it Facebook. It's just cleaner, and it was like 1BR. It's just cleaner, like, and no one knew what it meant. So we had to like change the title, So what do we know?
Well, it's funny because there's so many people who have interpretations about it. Like, Alok has sent me clips, specifically one from Spain. I speak Spanish, and he's like, "What are they saying? Like, I can't tell if this is a good review or not." And I'm like, they spend the whole time talking about like how to say the movie. They don't know how to say it. They're like I'm like, don't worry, it's not a bad review. They just literally don't know how to say it. Which is kind of a problem.
You should encourage people to roll the R whenever they pronounce the title of the movie.
No, I really like that interpretation of the title, though, to be fair.
It's gonna be a Cardi B song next.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
It'll be in the sequel.
I love it. That's amazing. Well, and y'all, it's won some awards at some festivals, right? I saw.
Yeah, we won Best Picture and Best Director at Fractured Visions in Cardiff. They're a great festival, and then even the sort of a bigger festival. It's pronounced Gerardmer. It's in the French Alps, and Americans would be like, Gerardmer. But we actually won the audience award there, which was actually really fulfilling, because another movie, Saint Maud, which you guys are going to lose your shit over, by the way. Let me just put it out to you that way.
Yeah.
There was like 6 awards, and it won like 5 out of the 6 awards, and we won the last one, which was the audience award. Like 2,200 people had seen the movie in like 4 days because they just pump them in there, and they have these huge theaters, and people would show up at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and you'd walk in and be like 2 empty seats, and you're like, I can't even get a seat for myself. You know, it's like I give up my seats anyways, but I didn't think people were gonna come that early in the morning, and like they did. And anyways, we won the audience award. It was very like nice to have, and actually got us our French distribution. Actually, we're with Picture Store, I want to say.
How do you say 1BR in French?
That sounds about right.
Right.
I was going to tell you, this Gerard May festival is just nuts. Like these people, they like talk to the screen, and it's such a nice festival, in so much as they wine and dine you like crazy, tasting course, 8-course menus, and they bring everyone in, and it's just and we got to meet so many cool people there, so many cool filmmakers, the guys that did Vivarium and
wow.
St. Maud, which I think I mentioned. St. Maud, Rose Glass is the director. She's like this young thing, and she is just already so brilliant and having success. Her film's with A24, and I think they're going to release it October 9th in the UK. So if you have any people in the UK listening, you got to fucking see that movie. It's good. It's legit. She is she is a wonder kind. She's going to be somebody in the future. You're going to be like, holy shit, I knew her back when, like a Robert Eggers who did The Witch or something like that. And it's it's almost similar to The Witch in a certain ways, where you don't know if it's really a horror movie in certain respects, but it will horrify you. I can guarantee you that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A24 is one of those companies that I just trust kind of implicitly now when they put out new stuff, because they've done so many good things in such a short time.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So shall we talk about the movie itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited. So I actually stumbled upon it. I mean, we watch a lot of Netflix and stuff anyway, and I love watching horror movies, both good and bad. And so if I see something that I've never heard of, I'm always like, I'm going to try it and see. Let's see what happens. And I was just hooked right away. And the thing that I loved most, well, we should put out a spoiler warning that we will spoil this.
We will be spoiling this movie.
For our regular listeners, we spoil every movie we talk about. But one of the things I love is not only that there were parts where I didn't figure out, I didn't know exactly how it was going to end, or see that ending shot that was so cool. I didn't see that coming. But there were multiple parts where I kept thinking I knew where it was going, and then it just flipped and would be completely different than what I thought. And I love that, because I feel like so many horror movies, or just movies in general, are very formulaic, and so you're we play a game all the time watching movies of oh yeah, that person's gonna die first, that person's gonna die next, and this is how it's gonna end, this is gonna be the killer. I couldn't figure out most of that stuff. It took me by surprise so many times, and that's what just had me hooked the whole time.
Yay.
I would tell you this, I used to work in market research for film, so I tested movies. So we worked extremely hard at kind of crafting the trailer, because everything is usually given away in the trailer.
Right.
And we knew we had to give some visuals away, but we made them fast. So, and it wasn't necessarily sticky. So you saw something, but you just maybe couldn't remember it, so that hopefully when you watch the movie, you're like, oh, okay, this feels, whatever else. So it was very purposeful in terms of crafting that. But I will tell you this, as hard as we worked on that trailer, and we went back and forth with poor Dark Sky, who's our amazing distributor, sales agent. They're very much a boutique agency and have a lot of great films coming out, the Honeymoon Phase. If you haven't seen that yet, you need to watch that.
No.
They have this movie called Hosts, the unfortunately named Hosts, which is so similar to the movie Host that's on Shudder right now.
Right.
You're you don't confuse them or whatever. But the idea was to craft this trailer. And what I've discovered is that it's so much better even still if you just don't know anything about it. You just go in kind of cold, and you're like, what the fuck is happening here? Because everyone keeps on saying that on Twitter and stuff like that. You're one of the people who are in control of our Twitter, and I see it all the time where there's oh no, I'm fucked up. This movie's crazy as hell, or this movie's crazy AF, or you know what I mean? It's just, I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm so surprised. And in that regard, for certain horror movies are what they call discovery movies. Or people who feel like they've discovered something then want to talk about it, which is the nice thing, right? So again, if you don't watch a trailer and you go in kind of cold, you're going to see what's what. Now, I have a question for you. Like, when you saw it on Netflix, did you see it like, trending in the top 10 or something, or it was trending, or where did you see it? Or did you just see it come up on your front screen, let's say, for example?
I think it was, I can't remember if it was the trending or under
like scary movies or something.
Or like it was, but it was at the very top because like I had just opened it and I had barely started to scroll through and I saw it and I was like, oh, they got a scary movie I haven't seen because I've seen so many of theirs that are currently on there. And so I was really excited. Yeah. And I like what you're saying with that discovery is as soon as I had watched it, I think as soon as you got home, I was telling you about it.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to talk about it with like all these people, but I was like, ooh, we've got to figure out a way. We've got to talk about it on the show somehow.
Yeah.
Got to figure out a way. So I was really excited that this worked out. I was like, yes, I wanted to talk about it and share it with people.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, going into it cold, I feel was a definite treat because I didn't know, I had no idea what to expect aside from, the sentence or two that Netflix gives you of the description. And so, yeah, every twist hit, I feel twice as hard because I had no clue where it was going next.
I only told him it was a really good movie and I really liked it. I did not tell him anything about what it was because I wanted him to have that same thing I had of like just twist after twist of like, oh shit, it's it's not the other guy. And like
the truth of the matter is this, like, so, I was saying I tested movies for 18 years. I did market research for film for all the studios here in town, Los Angeles and everything. And so what we discovered, what I know because of doing it for so long, on the survey that you'd fill out, right? There's what would you rate the movie? Excellent, very good, good, fair, poor. And then would you definitely recommend it to a friend? Now that score is so important because it's a word of mouth
right
score, right? So if you tell your friend, your husband, that this is a great film, he's going to listen to you. There's no trailer I can cut that's going to be as effective as you telling your friends to see this movie.
Right.
You see, like on our social media all the time, we're always like, you tell a friend. Put it in a better light than it could ever have been.
Yeah.
I mean, so some of this stuff may really ring true with you because you've seen those like stucco apartments that we have in 1BR and da-da-da-da. So it really kind of actually probably hits home more for you even than like him,
oh,
I'd say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a lot of memories watching of going when I first moved there because my school didn't have dorms. And so we had to go look at apartments with my roommate and going around to lots of buildings like that and looking around at apartments. And so I was like, oh, I hope none of them were cults. Like, you never really know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Could you hear our cat? Okay, good. All right. If you couldn't hear it, then it would be fine.
We didn't hear anything, Naomi. I know you.
That's good because some of us are allergic. No, I'm kidding. You selfish bitch.
Say that part shocked me. Not just the cat. Lots of things shocked me, but like when I saw that note, I was like, "Oh shit!" Like right out the gate, that is harsh. I was like, "Oh my god!" And then the cat, when she smelled something, I was like, "Oh my god, the cat's gonna be in the goddamn oven." I know it. I know it. Like, and the only reason I thought that is because we have watched too many movies where animals are the first to go. And I was just like, man, is this a new trend?
That's one way to just make my heart hurt in a movie is for something bad to happen to a dog or a cat or any kind of animal. I'm just like, no.
The people, it's like,
yeah. People come and go.
But yeah, no.
Just yesterday, actually, I was going to say, just yesterday, when a couple of my neighbors actually, I don't know when they watched it, but they mentioned to me that they'd seen the movie. They didn't know I was on it. They just happened to, just like you, Netflix and chilling and caught me in it. And I think it was, it was kind of alarming. Like they were like, oh snap, like our next door neighbor is out of her mind. Like
she doesn't seem like a good neighbor at all.
I don't know that I want to live near her.
Right. I mean, they've seen me like on the HOA Zoom calls, like get a little heated, but like, you know, they've never seen me actually like come out in the courtyard with a knife.
Right.
So, I mean, I think they were like, it could happen, you know, everyone who sees this movie is like, is this based on a real story? And it's like, yeah, you know? So anyway, it's just kind of funny. Like it of all movies, you know, for them to just sort of accidentally like happen upon while they're like Netflix and chilling at home, knowing that that lady is like literally next door right now.
Yeah, that's not a movie
like,
you want your neighbor to be in.
No.
Yeah, like keep your cat inside.
Right.
Keep the pussy quiet.
the hot pussy. Quiet.
Right.
Smoking hot, you would say.
Some might say.
Yeah, that's usually Naomi's line, by the way. That's typically her line on every podcast. I feel like I've usurped that line from her today.
It's okay.
Somehow. Like, taking it.
No, it's all. It's.
She's very giving. She's very giving. Like with the hot pussy. Like just.
There's enough to go around. It's.
Oh my goodness. Well, and like the second, I think where, and now you had it on your phone because like I said, I'm bad with names. I felt it when Sarah was in her name. I remember she was in the courtyard and she was like, "Oh, it's okay. I'm bad with names too." I was like, "Oh, good." What was the character of the guy who it was like? You think is it Leonard?
Lester.
Leonard.
Lester.
Very similar. Okay. You know, it kept seeming like it was leaning towards, oh, he was going to be, which by the way, I love the fact that he ended up not being like the super creep character because like, I feel like it's a stereotype we see so much in horror movies that anyone with some kind of disability, it's like, oh, they're going to be the bad guy, you know? And so when it started to believe that, I was like, okay, well, he's going to be the bad guy because I've seen horror movies. I know how this goes. And so then when it was like the attractive guy from next door, I was like, oh, snap, that's amazing. And then when he turned out to be, really good and, you know, trying to help her and all this, I was very excited for that. I just have to say, so kudos for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, you know, the funny thing about Clayton Hoff, who plays Lester, was that like we were trying to cast this movie and we didn't have a lot of time. We were like, we had to decide by like Monday, right? And David Marmer, who's the amazing writer-director, I don't know if we haven't mentioned him yet. He's just a genius. It's one of the only things that producers and him kind of fought over because he wanted this dude that was like much older looking. And I was like, how is that poor girl going to be with this guy, first off, who's like, you know, somehow, whatever, like menacing in some way. And then all of a sudden, like he's older. Like, who would want to do that? You'd want to kill yourself or, you know, whatever. It's like, what do I have to do with that too? And so we were fighting about it. And Clayton Hoff, he never goes on social media. It's really rare. And I know him from way back when. And like, so he got married. And then he put his marriage picture of one of the few things up on Facebook. And I was like, it was on a Friday. And I was like, holy shit. Like, that's the fucking Lester right there. I know he can act. You know, and so it was like, I was like, you got to do a self-tape like right now. You got to do it. He's like, well, I got an acting class today, and then I gotta go. You know, every actor has just some, you know, waiting tables or whatever it is, kind of job sometimes. You know, when you're making it. And he's like, well, I can do it to you. I can try to get it to you on Sunday. This poor guy comes home at like, I don't know, 12:30 at night, 1 o'clock at night after like working a whole day and going to classes and everything else. And then his nice wife stays up with him and they record something till 4 o'clock in the morning and send it to us. I wake up on Sunday morning, I watch the thing, and I go, that guy's fucking Lester. and I fucking like, then right away, like, you know, got our director on the line. Like, you got to watch this with me. Come on, let's do this. And da-da-da. And he begrudgingly, his other choice he really wanted, he was like friends with that guy too. He was like, yeah, that's the guy. And so we hired him on like the Monday. And he was already, this guy's on his honeymoon, like in New Orleans or something. And I was like, hey, there's like a French, you know, there's a band going on in the background or some shit. And I'm like, you got it. What? You got it. You know? So it was like a nice wedding present, I suppose.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
You know.
Well, and he did a great job. Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's something slightly disturbing about the fact that his wedding photo is what you thought looked like, oh, he's the perfect creepy villain.
Yeah.
Like,
no, but
his wedding photo It's supposed to be when he's like the most handsome and like sweet looking.
Least creepy. Right?
Well, it's not, it wasn't because the actual photo. It was because I know he could be that way. Because he's played other roles that were sort of like where he's like, I'm a drug dealer, I'm again whatever, and so he has that sort of
You jogged his memory.
Drug dealer,
right?
Whatever.
Right, he did well of like walking that line of the seeming very withdrawn and frightened and skittish, or is he up to something and up to no good? And then once you find out that he's really a sweet guy, you're like, okay, that's totally believable with what I've seen. So like, it was really fun. I watched part of it with him when he was watching it the other day. It was really fun going back for a second time and like looking for these things and being like, oh, this is what I see. Like, oh, I can totally see this now. That was really cool getting to, like when Naomi, when you're scolding your daughter at the table and you're like, what's rule number 1? And when you're first watching it, it's just like, I don't know, what is rule number 1? Like, okay. But then, you after having seen the whole thing and seeing about the rules and all that stuff, it's like, oh, okay, this makes so much sense. And it was just little stuff like that to me is so cool. And I love when movies have that, and y'all did that really, really well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's David Marmer, and our editor Rick Fox. He did an amazing job too. They brought back a completely different story. This one took a long time to make. If I can talk on that for a second, we shot it in end of 2017 over Christmas.
Oh wow!
Right? We knew people would do it for cheaper.
Right?
I'm a money grubbing producer, and we then realized for sure. We realized when we were shooting, we had 15 days to shoot it. And we realized like the ending that we had gotten saddled with, that I didn't even know that we were shooting because I got that one email. They didn't put the script changes in the body of the email like they usually do, let's say. And like, it was just a disaster. I got to set and I'm like, this is the ending? What are we doing here? We're going to have to can we stop everything and just reset? We got to reshoot this. We got to do something else right now. And they're like train's already down the track, man. Like we can't stop. I was like, oh, we're going to have to do reshoots for sure. And so Naomi and Taylor Nichols and all our great actors are just, busy people. So getting the band back together, so to speak, was a lot tougher because we could only get them like in August and end of August, beginning of September. And it just so happened, and this is how great a person Naomi Grossman is. Naomi Grossman's nominated for an Emmy, right? How often does this happen in life, right?
Right.
But it just so happens the Emmys are on the week that we're shooting the reshoots.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
So this poor woman has to come back and do our little no budget film, and she's missing gifting suites with trips to Barbados and stuff like this. And so she had to but she did it. To her credit, she was really noble, good old friend. I mean, I wanted to cast her in the movie. I've known her for 20 years. I was like,
oh, wow.
Will you do my first film? My little shitty budget film, and she did it like a trooper. And,
I was going to ask if you guys had known each other.
We had to come back. Yeah. We had known each other for a long time.
You seem to have a good rapport.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Alok is from Los Angeles, and his one of his childhood besties was one of my college besties. And so when I moved to Los Angeles after graduation, I was like Sarah. I moved into a one bedroom and didn't have any friends, and so basically her friends became my friends. So, and that was Alok. That's how we became friends. And, little did I know I'd been like networking this whole time. I always believed in this project, obviously. I'm not going to lie. I want to say it was my agents that were like, really? You'll do this for that? Christmas? You really want to spend your holiday, like, basically, making no money. Like, you're not going anywhere. You're staying home. And, but I was, I'd always wanted to work with Alok. And, the fact is the script was really great. And again, to David Marmer's credit, like if the blueprints hold up, then you're going to have a house.
Right.
And I could tell from early on that the foundation was there for something really great. And so, yeah, like, far be it from me when they say we need to do reshoots, like, yeah, then you need to do reshoots. It's just like when the architect says, hey, you know, the house is going to require a little bit of a renovation. Like, okay, like whatever we got to do to make this one on Netflix. No, I mean, no one could have thunk that, but yeah. So
yeah, that's so awesome.
You know what? For all we know, I would have been maybe had I gone to that gifting suite and gotten that trip to Barbados, I might have been like basically like quarantined there. I'd be like stuck on an island. Like, we never know. Like,
right.
I should be saying thank you, Alok. Thank you for keeping me from being stuck in the South Pacific. No, but I mean, if anything, this is for me to be able to go back to my agent and say, see, I told you this was going to be worth it. Like, I know we didn't make any money from it yet because we still could, right?
Right.
I mean, in a couple years, I think the money's going to come.
Yeah.
It's independent cinema. Like, it's like a thing where like you're always like, hey, psst, give me give me $4. Why? Because I'm going to give you $6 in 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, all you have to do is stick to the 4 tenets that the cult stuck to, and you can be self-sustaining. And you know, they seem to be doing very well for themselves.
They seem quite happy, you know.
Right.
No, and that kind of is kind of a big of like what made this idea kind of come about. What made you think about this cult that completely resides in an apartment complex, and that's how they take in new members, is not by like recruiting or anything, but by kidnapping them from their apartments and nailing their hands to the wall. Like, that's just a very unique concept, and I love cult stuff, so I was definitely hooked by that.
Well, you know, David Marmor always says the reason how he came up with this idea was based off of, like, I mean, listen, in Southern California, cults are sort of like, you know, everywhere.
Right.
A rich history of cults, as they say.
Yes.
And David had moved down to LA to sort of like, you know, go to film school and whatever, and felt very alone and was living in exactly the same kind of place, like one of those stucco, like, uniform looking apartments. And he had snuck in a cat, by the way, as well. So he was extra stressed about that. And so, you know, he researched cults like Synanon, which started out as a drug rehab. And, you know, back in the 60s, it was very, you know, forbidden to be addicted to drugs. And they tried to take that stigma away. They also tried to say, hey, listen, move in with us. We'll keep an eye on you. And then it kind of evolved, like, you know, most cults do when they kind of turned bad, where they, you know, started like, you know, slapping people. Someone may have died. Like, it was a whole thing. And they actually then shaved their heads and moved up to Northern California. And a fun fact is that one George Lucas was shooting his movie THX 1138 up there, needed bald extras, and most of the extras in his movie are Synanon members.
Oh my God.
They were bald. And
I did not know that.
I didn't either. That's amazing.
You know? But like I said, most of these cults go wrong. It's always this cult of personality. And I guess there were some murders that happened. And, you know, this stuff was actually, the government was giving them money and sending them people and whatever else. But like I said, like, the interesting thing about what he did is that he made it very believable, because we didn't at any time try to, like, you know, like most horror movies do, like try to sexually abuse Sarah, or, you know, or they want to help the people, right? So he makes it very believable that you would maybe see how this could be a way of life, you know? Like, I always make the comparison to American History X, when, like, you know, Edward Norton is giving a speech, you know, and you're like, oh yeah, he's right. Like, what? No, he's not right. Like white supremacist, like, you know, but, like, you know, there's a part before they go and they ransack that, like, grocery store, where you're like, this is kind of very intelligent and very well spoken, and I can see how people might buy into it.
Right.
That's the same kind of thing that David did very smartly, and, you know, And so it kind of works on that level. If you're thinking about how could someone want to do this, you know what I mean?
Right.
He kind of really built that in, and again, like the whole thing is has different glimmers of different cults or whatever. I'm not going to say Scientology because I don't want those people to come after us. And Naomi, bikes past there every day, and I don't want her to disappear in some way.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Literally lives like really close.
Oh my God. I used to drive past there all the time. Yeah.
Well, the performances in the movie really help sell that feeling that they never feel like they're doing anything nefarious. They believe in it, and they feel like they're helping, and that this is just the way that gets done. And everybody seems to really have bought into it. Naomi, at the end, when you come out with the knife and you're so distraught and asking her, how could she do this? And why would she do that? Like, the look in your eyes of just disbelief that anybody would not want to be a part of this community.
Right.
That shook me a little bit, that people, get that deep into it and that just overboard about it.
And that was one of those other turns that I loved, that it's like the leader is gone and you don't have, like, I didn't think everyone was going to be like, oh yeah, let's go. But I thought at least some of them would be like, oh, thank God, more than just Sarah, and then Lester at the very end when he like goes to help her, and then shoots himself or what. But like the fact that no one was like, oh, what a relief, we can leave now. It like just really shows how much they were all conditioned and bought into it. And that was so cool. Yeah, exactly. Which, is why some of these cults live on way past the passing of their people, like their founders or whatever, is that it's that same thing. That was really neat.
I think they gave me one of the best lines when I do come out, like you said, and say, how could you do this?
Yes.
It's like, how could you do this?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
it's been done to her, and yet we don't see it that way. Like, my husband's dead. How could you do this? But like the real twist is like, no, it's like, how did we do this? Like, she's been the victim the whole time, but we don't see it that way.
Right.
We think we're helping her.
Right. And you're doing her like this big favor, basically, of like saving her and taking her in. Yeah. Yeah. That was a really cool way to show that and everything.
So I couldn't decide if the Sarah character, if she started to kind of buy in and get brainwashed a little bit, or if she was faking the whole time and waiting for her moment. I couldn't decide for myself if I thought that she had.
I had the same thought, because I was like, how did she, if she was holding on to it, how did she pass his damn like lie detector test? I want to know that, because that's pretty amazing.
Well, I would tell you this. It's sort of up to the viewer.
Right.
I think really at the end of the day to sort of ascertain whether they think that is the case. I think that the other part of it is that, I mean, you can get to a point that you can literally believe something, even though you're not 100% in that moment. She's like, yeah, I guess I do, I mean, and passes the test, but then, thinks about other things and doesn't want to stick an ice pick in, someone's ear. And,
maybe that gave her pause.
That'll snap you out of something pretty quick.
I mean, and, Lisa was saying a lot of true stuff to her too, that maybe made her think too, like, you got a brand new daddy, and like, fuck you with that.
Right.
Plus, like, I mean, after she said yes, her dad does come to try to, visit her, rescue her, whatever, from this life, and then she has to, like, then turn to save his life. And a great scene by the amazing character actor Alan Blumenfeld. I think it's one of the best scenes in the movie, frankly.
That scene, like,
it's such a scene, because people in the audience when we watch it at festivals are like, damn. She cold. Like, the next time I want to see you is at your funeral. Like, god damn.
No.
That's but Alan Blumenfeld, by the way, like, friend of David Marmer, a theater friend from the Botanica Theater, like they have up in the mountains over here, like kind of near Malibu Valley area and stuff. It's a beautiful spot to go see something. A lot of Shakespeare there during the summer and stuff like that. But Alan Blumenfeld, an actor, was friends with David, and David just like said, "Listen, I got this part for you. Would love you to do it." And he was just like, "Yeah, fuck, I'll do it," And that guy's been in everything. Like he's like in War Games. And also, Susan Davis, our Miss Stanhope, also in War Games. By the way,
nice.
A reunion of sorts for that.
Yeah.
The mom actually.
Oh,
She's been in a ton of stuff. But Alan Blumenfeld, like in Heroes, and like, I mean, you just look at he pops up he's in that Steve Carell show on Netflix called Space Force. Like he's everywhere. You just notice him all the time and stuff, but he's an amazing actor for sure. We got very lucky with our cast in general. Besides like the amazing Naomi Grossman, we had so many great actors. Taylor Nichols from the Whit Stillman movies, Barcelona, Metropolitan, and he's in everything. He's in what's it called? The new Perry Mason right now as well on HBO.
Oh, yeah.
And Giles Maddie is in he was in 24, and he was in Ford versus Ferrari, and he's everywhere too. And who else am I forgetting here? We talked about Clayton already. I think we had a great cast.
Yeah,
Here's a funny story. Maybe you know, or maybe you don't know. We had so many disasters on this movie, and especially in terms of casting. Did you guys read anything about that at all?
No. I'm excited.
So
I love insider information.
I'll give you one story, but there's a Movie Maker article that Movie Maker magazine, which is a terrific, obviously historic magazine, very prolific, very tastemaker-ish, let's call it. They let me write a article about everything that went wrong with this movie.
Oh no!
Definitely check out, because there's a lot of shit that went down, including the fact that in pre-production, we had a horrible pre-production. And what happened was that we had cast somebody else that wasn't Nicole Bryden Bloom for Sarah.
Oh.
This much bigger TV actress, right? Well, I can't say why, because of like libel and shit like this, and it's kind of water under the bridge, even though we could have sued her. Anyway, but we're not going to do that, because we're all about love. Anyway, but this young lady made us hire her friend, who's working on some sort of CW vampire bullshit show that I would never fucking watch. But we hired him because he had an Instagram following of 1 million, and she had 4 million, and this is a bullshit thing you have to pay attention to as a producer nowadays. It's terrible. It's terrible we live in this day and age.
Right.
But what happened was that we had hired her and him, and this young woman requires it, and we're like, holy shit. Like, we talked to the company that makes this drink, and they're going to send it to us, but it's not getting here till the 3rd day. So we can't be without it. So it was Marina Del Rey buying this feminine energy drink, begging his manager to go look in the back for more feminine energy drink, because it wasn't enough. It was only a case. I was like, do you have any more of this? And the guy's like, I don't think I do. And I'm like, just go check. And he went and checked. We got a call from her agent that she's out. Doesn't give an excuse, doesn't give a reason, doesn't give anything like that. And we're like, and by the way, this is our own money. We put it in the movie, by the way.
Oh my God.
Just so you know, I mortgaged my house allegedly for this movie, and I paid off house, by the way, to get to figure this out. And so I'm immediately feeling like I'm going to throw up, because this is literally Monday and we're shooting on a Thursday.
Oh my
Then we get a call that her shitty friend, whoever we hired from this bullshit fucking vampire show on the CW that no one should ever watch. I can't say what, but he's also dropped out. And we're like, holy shit. And so immediately we go next door to the strip mall, as everything is in Los Angeles, the Skeletons. And we go to this bar, and we just get a drink, steady ourselves. And we're like, okay, let's figure this out. Okay, we got to be logical. We get another call that our Miss Stanhope character, her older lady actress, her husband has collapsed, rushed to the hospital, and is dead.
Oh my God.
She's out too now. So we lost 3 people in the span of an hour and something.
Oh my God.
It's like, what the fuck do we do now? What we did is we backed everything up a week to the next Monday, and then we just started trying to recast. Now, luckily, Nicole was always actually our first choice, and actually absolutely David's first choice. We had to basically beg him and corner him in a room and be like, listen, this other actress makes us in the black. My grubbing producer fingers need this to happen. You need to make this, you need to come to Jesus with this,
Right.
He was like, all right, can I fly out to wherever the hell she's shooting her show in Canada? And we're like, yeah, we'll do that. You can fly out twice and, fucking figure that out.
Right.
And so, he was doing that and did that. And then at the end of the day, his first choice was Nicole. And we were like, let's go to Nicole. And she said yes. And she got like 3 hours to rehearse with him. She's from New York. So in a way, she was sort of like the Sarah character, coming into a stranger in a stranger land.
Right.
So that was part of, I think, something she may use. Who knows? But she flew out here like a champ. And I'm gonna say Naomi Grossman never wavered. She was always a champ. Like she was just like, you know what? I don't need a fucking feminine energy drink. I'll just show up to work. And she did that because she's a friend. Anyway, long and short though is that we're sitting there on a Friday, and Friday it's like it's kind of D-Day. We don't know what the fuck is happening. We still don't have two people. We still don't have the older lady character, and the stand open. We don't have like the Brian character, and so we're like, please, friends, send us all the reels you can of actors you work with that are lovely people, and and I get a reel for Susan Davis, and I watched the reel. Looks great. There's a number at the end of it, and I'm thinking it's her manager or agent, and I call it, and it's not them, it's her.
Oh wow!
I said, listen, this is highly inappropriate, but I'm going to pitch you the movie. I'm going to pitch you us. And she's like, at the end of it, she's like, you know what? I've never been in a cult movie before. I think I'd like this. And I'm like, okay, great. And it's like 9:30 in the morning. We sign her by 11:30. Contract's done.
Oh,
then,
wow.
We move on. We're sitting in Barney's Beanery. It's like 6:30 at night. We still don't have a Brian character. And we were like calling all our friends, like from when I used to test movies, like the, Jason Blum's of the world and his head of post-productions and bestie. And I'm like, you need to call CAA and ICM and all WME and make them stay open later. Make them stay open later for our little film. And they're calling and trying to see what they can do and throwing their weight around. And finally get a call at around 6:37, I'm going to say. And it's Gersh, who was very invaluable in this whole production. Rhonda Price and her team were great. They represent Sarah and Brian in the movie. But it was Giles Maddie, his agent, and they were like, he's in. And what we found out of why it took so long is that he was driving down from San Francisco to LA, and he pulled over the side of the road and read the script on his phone and just read his part and said yes. And we were like, oh! Oh! Let's see if they all show up on Monday, right? So we were like freaking out, but it was just a thing where we were like, thank you, Jesus. So that's what happened. But Naomi Grossman was in from the beginning. I just want to point that out. So that was one of the three stories that are madness that happened. And I don't know if you want to hear the rest of them, but you can at least read the article if anything. And it was. I know you guys had your questions though, so I don't want to take over anything. I just want you guys to ask what you need to ask. I feel bad to kind of interject certain things.
No, it's fast. I love it. Well, I have a couple questions, but then I do want to make sure that I get the Twitter questions in that followers gave. Well, actually, I think they're all from our fellow podcasters, but I know I've seen people asking you on Twitter, and the way the ending of the movie is, it leaves it very open, right? Mm-hmm. So have you guys thought about the idea of a sequel? And have you already kind of talked about it or anything? Is there anything with that?
100% have, of course. We were having a discussion just this week with producers, and David Marmer also is a producer on this movie, by the way. So he's part of that crowd. He did everything on this movie. He edited, he wrote and directed it. He also put his money where his mouth is, and he probably doesn't want to say it, but he put his own money in the movie too because he believed in it, and So it was all very much a team effort, and we're making another movie with him, by the way. We can say nothing about.
Okay.
We're trying to J.J. Abrams the shit out of that. We don't want to tell you what's in the box. We want to show you what's in the box. What's in the box? We're not going to tell you. We're not going to tell you. So he and we talked this week actually, and it's very interesting. Where it's going to go.
Oh, okay.
And we know we have people that are interested in it.
Mm-hmm. I
don't want to say studios.
Oh, snap. Hey. Big thing.
Truth of the matter is, just like everything in this industry, it's all bullshit till you start shooting the first day.
Yeah.
Right.
And even then, sometimes they'll just like stop production and say, fuck it, we're not doing it. So it's like,
Right.
or they'll shoot the whole movie and be like, this movie is dog shit. We're never releasing this. Although nowadays, but that never happens nowadays. Like they'll just be like, all right, here you go, Pluto, or
Right.
the shittiest streaming site you can be on. Like, we're gonna break you up for Quibi. No,
Oh, God.
Right.
I don't think Quibi's gonna be around for a long time.
It sure doesn't seem like
No, it doesn't.
I don't want to shit on Quibi. Quibi's probably trying their hardest, but like, who asked for Quibi? I'm just asking.
I didn't.
No one did. Like, that's the reason. It's
No.
like, and in addition to that, like, here's what always amazes me for all the streamers. It's like, I'm watching a streamer. You can't figure out to hire some really good TV people that know their shit and just like bring them on to like fucking launch your site with at least like 2 or 3 good things. Because
Right.
like all of them have been disappointing. All of them are like, I mean, Netflix just had the chutzpah to like say, we're just sticking it out. We're gonna lose money every year, but we're gonna build a brand. So at some point, there's just too much for you to watch where you can never sort of get bored. Like there's always
Right.
something coming on. They've kind of got to the place right now where it's like the movie Airplane in terms of jokes. It's like 100 different things coming at you, and like 8 of them are shitty. There's 2 really good ones in there in the last like 5 minutes.
Right.
You're like, all right, I'll watch that. And it's like,
Right.
I mean, I can't go into it, but like, how much last on Netflix in the last like 2 weeks? Like,
Yeah.
like, yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
We love them. We love our Netflix
Right.
partners. That's what you're
Yes.
telling me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right.
So you talked about some of the difficulties shooting. Was there a scene in particular that you guys liked shooting the most or had the most fun doing?
Naomi, I'll let you answer that question.
Yeah. I was going to say specifically,
I mean,
Naomi.
I mean, listen. I mean, I think that's a question for Sarah, as far as I'm concerned, or rather, Nicole Bryden Bloom, because she's like in every single frame of this film.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I'm a sucker for like some emotion, and so like obviously, when I get to actually like emote, that's going to be my moment. So
Right.
yeah. But so I'm sure everyone would have a different answer to that, I would imagine.
Right. That's always very subjective.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. But I mean, I will say, like, even though, yes, I have a small part, and we all do at the end of the day, other than Nicole.
Right.
At the same time, like, it wouldn't be a movie, it wouldn't be a cult movie without the cult. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I do feel like, even though, I'm barely in it, at the same time, it is a group effort, like in every way. Like this movie, she's, it's her movie, but at the same time, if she didn't have this like
Right.
force, these bad guys surrounding her, there would be no movie. So, anyway, what I was trying to say is I take total, I take all the kudos for this film being such a success, even though I'm barely in it. Because, because it's a cult movie and I'm the cult leader's wife. So there. And hopefully one day be a cult classic.
Cult movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can see it now. 2BR, the cult leader's wife, or 2BR, the Chronicles of Janice. I mean, it could go either way. Like
you got me sold on this. I'm there.
1BR,
Yeah.
1BR, 2Bath, because who doesn't need another bathroom? Because literally, like, I mean, it keeps a relationship fresh. Like, you don't have to
Yeah.
Yes.
whatever. I mean, there's 100 different ways this could go. We can't let the cat out of the bag. Cat who's already been burned out of the bag.
Well, and there's a vacuum of leadership in the cult now.
Right.
Speaking of the cult,
Right.
Janice could step up.
Speaking of the cult, speaking of the cat,
Oh.
the cat's name is Giles in the movie. You have Brian's, who's Giles Maddie, right? And then also we have another Haley Giles who plays the nurse character that, basically seduced Sarah's father away,
Right.
being present with the mom. So 3 different Giles in the movie. And what we would do, that fucking cat is so fucking good. Can I just tell you? And we call that cat like One Take Giles. You just fucking get it done. Everything's on one take. And we would call Giles Maddie, who played Brian, over to set when the cat was acting for a joke, just to show him and be like, see that? That's fucking one take Giles. What the fuck happened to you?
Mr. Three Takes over here.
That's amazing.
I just talked to him, by the way, today, Naomi. He loves you. Anyway.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm gonna be like I'm drunk right now. All right, has it gotten back? Am I back again?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. When it goes unstable, I know what it's doing to me. It's like it says unstable. I'm like, all right. And Naomi, how are we doing for time? Are we good for a little bit more, or what's going on with you?
Yeah, we're fine. Yeah.
All right.
Fine.
So I gotta check with her. She's the
Okay.
boss.
Yeah. No, I understand. Good. All right, because we just have a few questions. So David from the Rooster Bat Show, he had a couple questions. One of which I had to write as a direct quote because it's great. And I'm actually going to start with that one because I'm just excited to read this. He says, the ending, yo, what gives? How did you leave it open? With 6 question marks to be exact. So he was very...
Well, I mean, if you look at these, like, you know, classic Hollywood movies, especially from like the 60s, 70s, even 50s, let's say, there's always something that end with like a thing where it goes, the end? Or
right.
Is it?
Question
mark.
It says that, like, at the end of the movie. Yeah, I mean, it says that. So it's like, you know, it is open-ended. I'll tell you this. We had multiple endings for the movie. We did. Like what we had shot initially. And then we shot 2 more for the reshoot, actually. And I'll tell you this. Our writer, David Marmer, did not like the ending that happened that the producers liked more than this other ending, which we can't talk about. We won't talk about. We'll let it come out on DVD someday or Blu-ray, what have you.
Yeah.
But it was because...
It might be the end of...
the next one.
Sorry. I was going to say, we might see it actually in the end of 1BR2 Bathroom.
Yeah.
There
I love the
are.
name, by the way.
Okay. Well, I mean, he said this. He said this about it, though. He was like, the writer part of me wanted the ending he wanted, but the director part of me knew that was the better ending.
Yeah.
We actually did test it, actually, because, I mean, that was our background. And so we did like 20 people focus shoots. We did 5 of those. And it helped us discover a lot of things. It helped us discover, for example, like I wanted to see more of the cat, like come out of the oven, like, you know, come out of the oven and like its eye explode and whatever. And I really wanted that to the point that I was like, I'll put, fuck the budget. I'm going to put $5,000 of my own money to CG this fucking cat in. But then we found out, and it was I'm glad I lost the argument, to be honest, because like 75% of the audience didn't want to see it. 25% did. But the 25% that did want to see it were hardcore horror fans. And really, truthful, our movie's not a hardcore horror movie. It's more of a straddle the line psychological thriller with elements of horror, rather than being, you know, that. So, so that's sort of what it was at the end of the day. That's one thing we learned. We also learned that our ending was a better ending. Like everyone was just like, holy shit, no, that's a better ending, you know? So that's sort of, I guess the answer hopefully is 6 question marks, answers the question sort of. You know, what's his name? Hot dog? What's it? Hot dog?
David from Rooster Bat Show.
Rooster Bat. All right. I mean, listen, all these different like podcasts that are just trying to like, you know, get onto your glory for having us on this and that. Like, I mean,
I think that's what it is. We officially have coattails now that we've got some decent guests in here.
I'll tell you this, like, you know, if they were smart, they'd have just written us and maybe we would do their show too. I mean, we're like, we don't say, I'm a hooker.
We'll do it tomorrow. I was going to say, I'm not doing anything.
Naomi Grossman is bored as fuck is in her amazing townhouse or whatever. So she lives with the ghost of Peter Lawford, like from the Rat Pack. Lived in her apartment and died in her. Did he die in your apartment? I forget.
Not inside, but he was living here when he died.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like she lives with Hollywood
Intense.
ghosts in her apartment or her townhouse. It's not an apartment. I'm sorry, I keep on saying that, but like it's. But we're hookers. Well, fuck it.
It's a 2BR.
I mean, if you have a certain amount of at least like Twitter followers, I'm not doing it for you and your mom. Like, we have 8 followers and we just want to talk to you. Like, well, then just Twitter us. I'll probably, or whoever it is will probably answer you. I don't know. Like, allegedly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is specifically for Naomi. This is Jess from Studying Scarlet podcast. It's a true crime podcast, but she's a big American Horror Story fan. And
Okay.
so she wants to know, and I mean, just looking at you, you're beautiful, you're gorgeous.
Beautiful.
So to turn into Pepper, she wants to know what that makeup process was like and how long it took.
It took about 2.5 to 3 hours.
Oh my God.
And it consisted of a prosthetic brow. Let's see. Yeah. Brow, nose, ears. They shaved my head. And of course, the season 2, they actually kept that little top notch. Season 4, they shaved it all off and just gave me like a little piece that they glue on. I had fake teeth, a wonky lens. I also had a fat suit. And in the case of the freak orgy in episode 1, season 4, where we actually see us, naked. In fact, I actually had to sign nudity clauses and whatnot. But in that particular case, they actually gave me a prosthetic chest as well.
Oh.
So, I had full man boobs, and kind of a diaper. I remember one time, the one of the producers seeing me on set and was like, "Get Pepper a robe! Somebody get her a robe!" Like he thought I was just naked walking around, but I was like, no, I'm literally wearing more clothes than I would wear to the beach. You know what I mean? Had a huge, a shield on my chest. But apparently it was too realistic looking. It made him blush. So, but yeah, and that was a 6-hour makeup job for the full body.
Right. Oh my God.
But people always say oh, I could never. I'm like, really? You couldn't go to your job and just have to, put on a robe, sit back, close your eyes, and just take a nap for the first 3 hours of your job? Right. I can.
Hold on. Is that what you had? I've always been curious about this. Is that what you had to do?
Yeah.
Or was there any point where you're just I feel so claustrophobic right now? Your hands, it's like going to the dentist. There's only you can have in your mouth at a certain point, or whatever it is. I would feel I'm crazy. I'd have to maybe meditate or do something, go to another place, or I don't know, whatever it is, Or could you watch TV through any of it, or could you do something like that, or no?
Sure, but I mean, while they're actually applying it, I did have to kind of close your eyes, close your mouth, sort of go back to bed, which essentially I would, because oftentimes my call was 4 a.m. because you got to figure if it takes me 3 hours to get done, then at 7 when I'm done, that's a normal hour to get going on production actually. And so then you have rehearsal, that cameras are rolling by 9 a.m. So
did you ever fuck something up so badly because you were dancing or moving around or something? It was this fucking stop for 2 hours, or what? Did you ever do? Did that ever happen? I've never known this. I've never asked.
Knock your nose off or something.
100% something.
No,
I've never asked that. I'm sorry.
Totally. No, those makeup people are all pro, and literally. They don't even have to call for last looks. They were on me at all times, mostly because my makeup was so fragile and costly, and not just costly, but time consuming, and time is money. So I'll never forget that my very first day on set. It was a really hot day in that asylum, and on a break, they had 2 makeup people with fans on me at all times. And I'll never forget, we're just sitting there in our chairs, and there's Jessica Lange sitting next to me, no fans, and it's
she's old school.
It is Well,
She
you know,
didn't have the
listen,
prosthetics.
she didn't have the prosthetics, but I mean, in my mind, I was like, holy shit, like this legend, like King Kong is next to me, like gets no fans, and I've got like 2. And I mean, it makes sense. Like she didn't have that makeup on, but you know, it still made me feel pretty special.
Felt like
Jessica Lange is a nice lady, I'm sure. And I bet you she's looking at you with the fans, and she's like, why don't I have mine?
Somebody bring me 3 fans.
Yes. If she has 2, I want 3.
Naomi didn't say that. I said that, and I said it allegedly.
I was gonna say I would never comment on that.
Nor should you. But I'm saying it.
I love the quote that she's the salty to my pepper for sure.
Oh.
That's very funny.
I will say this. And I'm not speaking out of turn at all, but I went to college with with Seth Meyers.
Oh,
and,
nice.
So when when Jessica Lange was on the Tonight Show, with Seth Meyers, it was her very first line was like, "Oh, Jessica Lange, hello, welcome, thanks for being here. You know, it just so happens that one of your co-stars is an old friend of mine." And she stopped. But Pepper, the pinhead, you remember, is actually a beautiful girl or something like that. And it's true. There was this moment where like Jessica just sort of, I mean, if you've seen Freak Show, you remember Elsa. The character Elsa Mars is, just has her eyes all Hollywood. You know what I mean? And no one can take her glory. Right? It's all about Elsa Mars. And so in this moment, it was almost this like meta moment where like Jessica kind of had this face like, huh? What? Like, why are we talking about a pinhead? Like, I'm sorry, I'm here on this show. Like, I'm on Seth Meyers and we're talking about Pepper? Like, anyway, it was this like hilarious, awesome, like again, very like meta. Like, who are we watching? Is it Jessica? Is it Elsa? And like, why is Seth Meyers talking about me? And it was pretty amazing. Of course, I saw no shade, but I will say, I know that I have been throwing around Seth's name my whole life. You know what I mean? Like, I went to college with Seth Meyers, So for Seth Meyers to be throwing around my name like, on his show to Jessica Lange, I went to college with Naomi Grossman. That was pretty fun. That was pretty fun. Like, it didn't matter how she reacted.
Between that and the fan moment, I mean, that's pretty major.
Listen, how old is she now? I mean, she's a legend. Like, I wouldn't remember some pinhead I
think
just
she's
worked
36.
with either. Right.
She's a wonderful actress. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
In King Kong, I don't know why I was feeling the like weird feelings I was feeling like when I was like, I don't know, 9 or 7 or something, and I was like, I don't know what's going on here, Mom.
Had a bit of an awakening.
She was a goddess. Like, and she's a national treasure. Let's be honest here. She's a national treasure.
Yeah.
She's doing it at that age, let's say, right? I mean, she can remember her line. She's like probably, like Lynn Fontaine kind of shit, Anyway, listen, you should ask the other question because I think we're running out of time a little bit because I know I have to go at 6. So.
Oh, yeah. We'll just do one more, which is also about American Horror Story. This is from Brooke and Holly from Curly Conspiracies podcast. They do conspiracy theories, and it's pretty funny. What was the most interesting scene, and what was the most difficult scene to film in American Horror Story Freak Show?
Ooh, the most interesting and the most difficult.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, there are so many come to mind.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't just one scene, but we shot the name game and the scene of where I'm like monologuing to Dr. Arden, like speaking like a fluent, a conversationalist, which we hadn't seen me do yet. We shot those like literally with like 12 hours in between the turnaround. Oh, wow. And so that was just that was a lot. You know, we'd never sung and danced before, you know, with like giant cranes and, you know, one eye, and which like really impairs your vision. And so, you know, to go from like this giant day room of extras and, like I said, flying, you know, very expensive equipment and like dancing A-listers, to then, you know, like I said, like 12-hour turnaround, all of a sudden you're like, oh, by the way, you speak English now, like fluently. So like, oh, okay. You know, it was one of those things where they gave me probably a month to really prepare the early pepper. But then the you know, coherent pepper, I had like a week, and that was great. But even then I had questions, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and so I was sitting there, most of my answers came from the makeup people, because, you know, they were my liaison. So, you know, as they're like applying this makeup, I'm like, okay, let's get this straight. So I'm like, when you say normal, like, what does that mean? Because I've been playing Pepper is normal to her, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like, so what does that even mean? So I sort of prepared in my head like several different versions. Like, is it like Dr. Pepper? Like she's a, you know, like a scientist, or a, you know, or is she a this, she a that? And so I let them sort of like pick a pepper, if you will. And I went with it. But it was one of those things where, you know, they were like texting Ryan Murphy from the makeup trailer, like, Dr. Pepper, or, you know, this or that, or this or that. And that's how I was like getting my direction, you know, because
Oh, wow.
when you're on a set, it's, you know, it's not like live theater where you have for like months that you're living with this director. Like in this case, it's like you are introduced to the director. Okay, we have a quick rehearsal, and then we're gonna shoot like in, you know, 10 minutes.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You know, so there was really very little time to like make these. So that was both interesting and what was the other, difficult? Just because it was the range to go from A to B. Other maybe notable scenes would be, I remember the scene where where I was in the cell and I was crying. And I remember, like, I'd been crying all week long, you know.
Right.
And listen, Nicole Bryden Bloom, Alok says, like, can cry 8 different ways. And I don't know if I have that much variety in my actual tears, but, you know, the things that make you cry on day 1 are different than the things on day 8, you know.
Right.
And so, like, by day 8, I was like, okay, all right, like, eye ducts. Like, what do you got? Like, come on, we can do this, you know? And I honestly think by that point, I was just crying out of like just sheer exhaustion.
Right.
But you know, it's, it was that particular episode was really awesome because, you know, let's face it, like up until then, I'd been like delivering the fat lady food and, you know, playing with string in the corner.
Right.
And so for me to like all of a sudden, like, no, you like all eyes on you. Like, you know, I mean, Jessica had been, well, she's been doing it her whole life, but you know, she'd been like breaking down on tears, crying on the floor, like every other, you know, scene.
Right.
So this was my first time having to do that kind of stuff, which was really awesome and exciting, you know, because I'd been waiting my whole life for that too, and it finally came. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I know you guys have to go. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the exact same thing. So.
But thank you so much for coming on and talking with us in our little podcast.
Yeah.
If for some reason, well, here's the thing. I know that your podcast isn't typically this, because I know that it's usually like the worst movie ever. But if for some reason by the end of the year we have made your like top 10 podcast, top 5 podcasts, or whatever it is, like we might be want to come say hi for a second to say you know, thank you or whatever, you know. I mean, if you're in our top 10 or top 5, let's say. You know. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
allegedly,
absolutely.
this was super fun. I got to run, but this is super fun. I had a great time.
Yeah.
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 We had a blast too. Thank you for coming on.
Cool,
We'll have
cool,
to do it
cool.
again one day.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if you're
Yeah.
a top 10 podcast.
Yeah, when you start breaking all the records.
Exactly. Yeah.
Guess what? I'm going to tell you this right now. You're going to break all the records.
Awesome.
Because every time her and I are on as a duo, everyone's like, we got so many views. And I'm like, Naomi Grossman.
There we go. That's what it is.
All right.
Awesome.
Gotta run. Cheers.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Our warmest and greatest thanks again to Alok and Naomi for coming on the show and talking about their amazing movie. If you still haven't watched it, the fuck is wrong with you? Go watch it. You just listened to a whole show where we spoiled it. In the description of this, we'll put some links to the Movie Maker article that Alok talked about that detailed a little more of the struggles that they had, and maybe the link to Jessica Lange on Seth Meyers. So join us next week. We'll be talking about Galaxy of Terror, as we said. HBO Max and YouTube are the places to go to find that one. Next week, we'll also have some news about some more bonus episodes like this that will be coming out very soon. Sadie and I did some guest spots on a couple other podcasts, like Disc Dump and Getting Wicked Deep, For Nerds by Nerds. We've got a spot coming up on soon, so be on the lookout for those. Yeah, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
This episode is brought to you by the Slash and Cast Podcast Network. Learn more at slashandcast.net.